really excited to bring something new to the conference experience this year, and we wanted to make sure that our members, though the lightning talk submissions are available to any conference attendee, we literally wanted to bring the benefit of a one-on-one kind of training session, if you will, with our members. So this talk, Corey, you can slide down a little bit. Perfect, thank you. So we're going to go over what they are, why it's so important that we brought them this year, ideas of topics, format, delivery. I am going to give you an example, and probably because I am not in control of the webinar, we'll send it out to you via email as a follow-up. But there are some really great examples out there. I'll talk about submission, and then for the last chunk of time, if anyone wants to hang around the call and do a little bit of Q&A, I'd be more than happy to guide you through this. So, all right, next slide. So what are lightning talks? Lightning talks are typically a series, usually at least 4 to 5, of 5-minute talks or presentations by different speakers, each introducing a topic or idea very quickly. And that's exactly what's going to end up happening at ONC-A&P. We have 2 sets of lightning talks, so they're 30-minute periods on Saturday and Sunday, where 5 speakers will go back to back. And the format is typically that myself or someone from the conference committee will go up, reintroduce the concept of lightning talks, and then each speaker will be given a very quick introduction. Maybe, all right, up next is Griffin McMath, and she is going to talk about proton therapy, and boom, and that's it. It's meant to be extremely efficient. So because of this, the urgency of getting across some key messages or really attracting people to come talk with you later, that sense of urgency typically drives a more compelling short talk than maybe if you had a longer time to get through the content. Next slide. Thank you. So why introduce this? Because this is something that we haven't done before and really not something we've seen at a lot of other naturopathic conferences. Well, in addition to all of the different things the membership committee and the conference committee are doing to enhance the conference experience this year, and some of those things are really making an effort to invite our interprofessional colleagues into this environment to enhance the community, networking opportunities. So they're more meaningful, they're substantial. You walk away with some concrete opportunities moving forward. We wanted to make sure that you are learning presenters' key messages quickly. Sometimes when we get into conference mode, and I know you all know what this is like, it's maybe hour lecture after hour lecture, and your brain just kind of gets into this autopilot. So these lightning talks are meant to come in once a day, so Saturday and Sunday, to kind of wake up your brain, get you thinking, really try to bring in some creativity too, because these ideas are meant to be novel, cutting edge, innovative, so kind of change the pace of the conference experience. We wanted to increase the diversity and range of topics, to improve attendees' opportunities to network and collaborate. So if you have something that you're really excited about that you've been working on or that you really want to get into and you want to deliver a really compelling 5-minute talk about it, then great, this is your time to pitch to your colleagues what you're thinking. And then afterwards they can come up to you and say, hey, I've been noticing the same thing. I really want to work with you. Or, hey, I'm see an MD or a DO on the East Coast. I know you're on the West Coast, but I'd really like our center to collaborate with you. I've never heard of this before, and I really think this would serve our population well. This is a great time to make that kind of introduction. And then additionally, you know, not everyone has enough material within our membership or our attendees to provide a full 50-minute presentation. And so this opportunity really provides a step stool for the next generation of speakers for conferences, not only in naturopathic oncology, but integrative oncology. And we wanted to give our members an opportunity to flex that skill set. All right, next slide. So as a review, we do have those 17 full-length presentations, or around 17 full-length presentations and panel discussions. And then we're going to be having 10 5-minute lightning talks. So It'll be 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday. And as you can see, that just really adds a whole other layer of topics. It almost ends up tripling the content. So we're really excited about that. So the format, to be brief, this is 5 minutes. It's a hard stop. Anytime if you were to look up quick tips on how to give a lightning talk, one of the biggest things is do not exceed 5 minutes. So that's one of the reasons why you will absolutely want to practice. And I'll get into that in a second. Slides, really this is a 3-slide max because the presentation shouldn't be dependent on the slides. The slides should be a mere accessory to you. The compelling nature should truly be in what the content that you have to say. I really highly recommend that you don't use effects or transitions. Those tend to slow down. Those do not work always consistently from the different formats of the computers that you may be presenting on, and they don't always operate smoothly. So if you are maybe, I think like the one circumstance where it might be okay is if you're trying to show some kind of physiological process and there are arrows that you need to show up in sequential order. Even that being said, it may be recommended to just number them rather than provide transitions because they'll slow you down. Even me describing this process has slowed down my own talk tonight, right? So point taken. Videos need to be embedded and should only be short clips to illustrate a key point. You can't go up and give a 5-minute lightning talk and some video be 4 minutes of your talk, right? Definitely not the idea. So if you really do need a video, also really practice that in advance. Maybe come early that day to troubleshoot it. Otherwise, if you're dependent on that and it doesn't work, you've really lost a key chunk of your presentation. There will be no Q&A. Your contact info needs to be available on your slides so that they can follow up with you. And better yet, you want to make the compelling nature at the end of your talk so inviting that they want to come find you after the conference. And that's really what we would like to happen here. Disclosures. So this year's theme is much more oriented to novel concepts, any kind of paradigm shifting therapies, research, or policies, if that's relevant, as well as any call to action patient care talks. So we really want to avoid mentioning names of products or companies. This isn't meant to be a sales pitch. There are some conferences, and they're not necessarily conferences, but they are, startup incubators that will get together, and that's more like a pitch deck experience. That's really not what we're trying to do here. This is a CE event, so we ask that you do keep that in mind. All right, next slide. So this is a potential outline I created for all of you. I, in preparing for this talk, watched a variety of lightning talks that I felt were very decent and could have an outline that our speakers would benefit from. So I watched these and I put together this outline for you. So feel free to use it. If not, if this doesn't work for you, absolutely throw it away, find whatever does. But starting with a hook, a pain point, or the need of your audience, and I'll get into this in a second, but you really want to know who your audience is. The audience here are, and Corey, please chime in if I am misspeaking, but predominantly you have naturopathic doctors, you have FOBNOs, you'll have the interprofessional colleagues, and then you have a small portion of students. That would be mostly who your audience is. So think about what their knowledge is, what their pain points are, and if you don't like that that phrase, then the needs that they have. Additionally, there may be some kind of I don't want to say press at this conference, but there may be people there who could be interested in talking to some of our main lecture speakers. So there could be people there who don't really have a lot of understanding, and that's why you don't only want to introduce the concept of your talk, but if there are any really big technical terms, you do want to define those at the beginning and as much of a conversational context as you can so that that reading comprehension is enhanced. You want to introduce a problem that you're trying to solve, provide any considerations that need to be pointed out in the beginning. Then you can get into your technical components. This may be an area where one of those 3 slides is really beneficial. Some lightning talk presenters will use the first slide just in the maybe first few bullet points there, the first three maybe. And their first slide will be just the name of the talk, their name, their contact information, maybe their social media handles, especially on Twitter as well, because your talk should really be filled with sound bites, like really powerful, punchy sentences that people will remember or that people can quote you for. And that's beneficial for many reasons. All right, so technical components could be another one of the slides, something that maybe your words won't do justice, but you need a visual as an accessory or to back up or to introduce something that you want people to remember. Then you can get into comparison of existing solutions. So you're providing the introduction of the problem, you're getting the technical components of the problem, then you want to say, here is what everyone else has done to try to address this. And now here, then you get into the success of your solution. Provide notes on implementation. And then this is where the talk starts to round out and you really want to have a strong finish. Lightning talks, because they're so short, have to be compelling. And so you want to provide really evocative language. You really want to paint a picture of a changed world with your solution. What does that look like? Someone should sit in the back of the audience and be able to, as you paint this picture, immediately see themselves, their practice, or specific patients come to mind and imagine the solution that you've introduced completely changing one of those different paradigms. And then drive it home with a why. Extend your invitation, make your call to action. This doesn't necessarily mean the call to action is call me for every time that you have this issue. It could be a variety of things, and I can absolutely work with any of you to hone in on what a specific call to action would be. But typically you want someone to do something with the information you just provided them, right? Even if it's going to look into this further or following up with you or partnering with you to go to the next stage of this research. There should be something you want people to do with that information. And then conclude, and if you prefer to provide your contact info on the end slide, then you can do that. Next slide, Corey. All right, some do's and don'ts. Do start strong, but finish stronger. Provide your contact info on the slides in a font size that's visible for the back of the room. That's something to keep in mind. People sometimes on Lightning Talk presentations will use headers and footers for the 3 slides that are consistent. So at any point in the presentation, if they say something punchy or a really great sound bite, that people can look up on the screen and have that available to use right away. So that's a great idea, but you want to make sure that you aren't using font in your header or footer that's super difficult to read because it's a rather large room, right? This is for a big conference. You want to maximize on your communication strengths and your personality style. So let's use me for an example because I'm speaking with you. I'm a little bit more informal in tone. I tend to use humor. I am able to paint pictures with my words because I describe things. I use a lot of analogies and metaphors, but that helps me towards the end of that presentation, and I can really maximize on that. If you're someone who maybe has a little bit more of a salesperson vibe to your presentation, then lean into it. Don't be cheesy about it or too salesy, but if you know where your strengths are in communication, this is the time to use it. This is not a time in the next 3 weeks to try to learn a completely new communication style. Just know who you are and lean into it. Practice that at least 10 times. And because this is a lightning talk, that means you're only practicing for an hour, right? But practicing 10 times, the repetition of that means that you're going to become a very smooth and polished presenter. And lightning talks really invite smooth, polished presentations. This isn't the time to be reading off of index cards. Know your audience, like I said, provide that call to action. And something that I think is really neat that some people do, if you have a website that you can upload your presentation to the morning of, definitely do not post this presentation in advance of the conference because that goes against why we want to introduce it at the conference. But you can provide a bit.ly link or a short URL to the header or footer. So while you're talking or after you're done talking, someone can download that presentation, those 3 slides, and refer back to it later. Don't read off of note cards. This will not be a TEDx style talk, so we will not have cue cards at the bottom. Don't promote companies. I think that we've gone through this. And don't rely on tech assistance. This isn't going to be something during the talk that we're going to be able to make a quick turnaround. So this needs to be rather self-sufficient.
To that point, can I actually say 2 things really quick off that?
Please do.
I just said, it is perfect on the downloading the presentation and tech assistance. So what would be nice actually is that I have all of these presentations, even like just the day before the conference, for 2 purposes. One, ideally it's best if they're all on my computer with the rest of the presentations, so you don't have to worry about bringing them on yours or what have you. Obviously always good to bring like a backup jump drive, but like if I already have them all preloaded, then I know they work. So that takes care of that tech assistance. And then also that allows me to, right after the conference, I can post all of those because I will have the links to them. So I can add them to like where people, get all their conference lectures. So that would probably be the easiest. So each individual doesn't have to deal with putting a link, and I can do it as a bulk thing. So that just a little interjection there, that might make it easier for everybody.
Great, thank you. Okay, so lightning talk presenters and topics. Here are 3 kind of categories depending on who you are and what kind of member. We have many different member types at OnCANP, which we're really excited about this year, including advocate, a category, interprofessional colleague. We have a couple different types. So here is to see if a lightning talk is for you. Clinicians, ND or non-ND, with preclinical and or innovative concepts to propose to the field of oncology that may benefit from introducing the idea to a larger audience and welcoming collaboration following the talk. So if that's you, excellent. The second would be patients and patient advocates with compelling and paradigm-shifting suggestions for clinicians, distinct calls to action for the field of oncology, and concrete proposals to address the greater implications facing patients with cancer and the healthcare system intended to support them. And on that note, really quickly, if you have patients or you work with patient advocates that you think would have a really compelling story or suggestion or this call to action for our community, invite them to the conference, invite them to come present, and invite them to be part of this community. I think it's a really great time, and one of the amazing parts or aspects of this conference that we think makes it so different from other integrative and conventional oncology conference experiences is that what people learn at the OnCANP annual conference, they can immediately start implementing and applying to practice on Monday morning. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things of this style of lightning talk. Patients and patient advocates can take 5 minutes to say something that could be totally life-changing for a provider. So very excited about that one. And the last one, this could be residents or early career professionals in naturopathic and integrative oncology looking to gain experience in public speaking. So we have some wonderful naturopathic oncology residents, and I know that we have a little meetup if people are interested in creating naturopathic oncology residencies. So this is just another way to provide a benefit for them to enhance their skill set. So very excited about that one too. Next slide. All right, so there are a variety of examples of lightning talks, and I'm just going to email you those because we'll be able to see who registered for this. I'll email you a few examples. The one that I think is great. So Google actually has, if you go to their YouTube channel, they have a series of these lightning talks, and I don't understand a single thing that they're talking about because it's all about API and gaming, but they use the format that I talked about. So even if you know nothing, you should be able to roll up to that YouTube channel, watch one of their lightning talks, and understand what they're saying because they followed those steps. They introduced complicated terms or technological concepts. They made an invitation at the end. They started with a great hook. And then also MIT has a startup exchange website, and they have a Cracking Cancer 2.0 lightning talks. And the series, it's a 30-minute talk set on YouTube, and they just go through 5-minute talk after talk. And there's professors, MIT, the people who are doing startup companies in this industry. So these are going to be a little bit more pitch oriented, but they are in the realm of cancer. They're talking about personalized medicine. And I think that those talks would be a great example for you to take a look at and see how they structure. But we'll send those links. Go ahead, next slide. So this is kind of where I wrap up. Corey sent out a wonderful email today that provided the submission link that you can use to sign up, to apply to give a talk. The information you provide, basically a very brief description of what you intend to talk about. Your name, your contact information will be sent to the conference committee, and that panel, or a special panel within the conference committee, will review the submissions. If they have any clarifying questions, they'll ask you. Otherwise, we want to make sure that you have a week or two to prepare your talk either way, and you'll be notified then. If you are not selected, something that I think that you should consider is creating your talk in advance of finding out anyway. Create your talk, write the outline, and if you don't get selected, sometime after the conference, if you want some help figuring out what would benefit you for next time or make some changes, record it. Use it for your own professional development advantage. Put it on YouTube. There's no, I think that we need to be able to take up more space and to get our innovative ideas out there in this profession. So even if you aren't selected because we can only select 10, go through the practice of developing a talk like this. It'll help you in so many ways. So I will stop talking and answer any questions that people have, whether that's format, delivery, tips and tricks, or even specific ideas they have for their talk.
Yeah, and I'll just before we do that, I'll add in just a couple other points from my side and just clarifying. So it's actually the Physicians Education Committee that's doing the reviews, not the conference committee. Not that
thank you.
No problem. It's kind of a multi-committee project. The only other thing I was going to add to Griffin's point about if you're not selected, or even if you are, this is actually a great kind of again, as she said, kind of step into the presenting world. So this, she kind of mentioned that, but this could be almost like a talk that you have thought about giving for the ONC-A&P, like at some point, but have never had the time to develop a full presentation, or maybe weren't brave enough or comfortable speaking enough for an hour. And so think of this also as like, oh, okay, a chance to do 5 minutes, and then maybe if it goes well or you liked it, then that 5-minute lightning talk this year could turn into a full presentation for next year. So I think she kind of mentioned that as like a stepping stone, potentially to, to a bigger presentation or to expanding your idea. But that's also kind of, I think in my mind too, another intent of these is just to get a more exposure for more of our members and more people to share their ideas, and also to help pave a path for people to start to get comfortable public speaking and have the opportunity to realize that there's really nothing to be afraid of. It's a wonderful, very collegial audience to present to, and I think once people kind of dip their toes in, they realize that they can do it. So I also hope that this empowers people in the process. So with that, I will be quiet. And if people have questions, again, you can type them in the chat box, or, we're a small group here tonight. So if you want to, you can kind of raise your hand with that little hand raising icon. We can unmute your line and you can ask it out loud. So don't be shy. Nobody
And
has
if no one
questions,
has,
Griffin. I know I was going to say you gave
yeah.
such a thorough lightning talk yourself that you explained the concept. You went through the bullet points. Just know now.
I may have spoken really fast. I was really excited about this topic.
We'll give people a couple minutes just in case people are like typing out a longer thing. Oh, Dr. Walker,
Sure.
let's unmute his line.
Hey, Griffin, thanks. What I'm wondering is, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it sounded like you're kind of willing to take on questions that people have. Like, if I want to maybe submit like a concept for a talk, can I run that by you? You know, if I'm kind of unsure, what should I do about that? Or like even how to
Absolutely.
structure it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be more than happy. I'll probably answer these emails in early morning and late evening over the next 72 hours. Outside of that, I'll be much more responsive. But yeah, absolutely. I think that if you, and I do want to say that I will, but that does not mean you will get selected. I'm not part of the committee that reviews these. The committee knows what a lightning talk is. They'll have this presentation as guidelines. They're more looking at a couple other components as far as content goes. But as far as structure or presentation tips, if you want to send me like a proposed outline and you're saying, hey, these are the things I want to talk about, how would you describe this in maybe 2 to 3 sentences? Or do you have any proposed edits for my outline? An example of how I could hook the audience if this is who I'm trying to talk to. I will absolutely provide feedback. Sure thing.
Thanks, Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll piggyback on that to say, I think, when in doubt, especially if you have like multiple topics or you're not quite sure, like it doesn't hurt to submit, right? And obviously, like Griffin said, she can help you through that. But if you're even worried about like, I don't even know if I should submit this topic, go for it. You know what I mean? Like it definitely doesn't hurt to put it in if you're and like I said, Griffin could definitely help with the structure of it. For like the application itself is really easy. It's literally like your contact information, like your title or like subject area, and then it is kind of that like 3-sentence description. So if you feel like you need that like 3-sentence description help before you submit, she could probably help with that. But yeah, so just to add in there. Let me check back at the question panel. Also, for those of you that are online, if you can see in the GoTo webinar panel, Griffin did post a link for some sample talks. We'll also include those in a follow-up email. But if you're on the web right now and can see that chat box, that question box, you should be able to see that link. All right. Any other questions from anybody? Let me just flip back over to the panel and make sure I didn't miss anybody with their hand up. Just a sec here.
And feel free, we have a little bit of time right now. You don't need to use all of it, but if you want to ask about an idea right now, you're more than welcome to.
Super quiet. Okay, well, I think we'll go with people have Griffin's email, and of course, if it's on the screen here, but you can always shoot an email to OnkANP as well, and I can always get that in the right hands. And yes, these are due next week, so you have a little bit of time, and then we'll just do a quick turnaround, of them. So obviously, once we notify people, it'll only kind of be like a week. from notification to giving the presentations, which should be plenty of time. Again, these are 5-minute things, but like she said, start preparing it anyway. You could start preparing it now and just go with it, whether you get picked or not. Just work on developing that. And yeah, I look forward to this component, obviously, to you that are live on the call tonight, and we are recording this for those of you who might be listening to the recorded version of this, obviously email with any questions. And also, we really do encourage people to spread the word about this, right? So as Griffin said, whether it's patient advocates that we encourage to come to the conference, they get to come at a discounted price, or other medical colleagues, or whether that's NDs or other of our conventional counterparts. The conference is for everyone, and we really encourage these lightning talks to be for everyone. And it's our first year doing it, but we also encourage people to share the idea with others and see how this turns out, and if this hopefully this becomes kind of a mainstay of our conference and really a place for us to share ideas.
Great. And Corey, will you remind me which committee is reviewing?
Yeah, the Physicians Education Committee.
Okay, so I have just saved the PDF of the slides with that edit, and then with the links embedded in for the example. And then when the email goes around, people can have the slides as reference with the correct information.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
thank you so much, everyone. Yeah.
Yep, we'll talk to you soon, and we look forward to seeing you all at the conference in a few weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.